Hello, this is Regents Review homework number 6. Number 1, Ian is saving up to buy a new baseball glove. Every month he puts $10 into a jar. Which type of function best models the total amount of money in the jar after a given number of months? Well, if he's putting in $10 each month, that means he's going to be adding $10 every month. So adding 10 each month. All right. Quadratic and square root don't really apply here, but we remember that linear functions have a constant rate of change. So an adding or subtracting pattern and exponential have a multiplying pattern. So here, linear is our best answer. Number 2, the product of square root of 576 and the square root of 684 is, and then rational or irrational. And product, we have to remember, means to multiply. All right, remember the difference between rational and irrational is that one can be made into a fraction and one cannot be written as a fraction. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just do and find out if we have a product of a rational or an irrational number. So 576 times the square root of 684. Enter, and math frac. Remember, if we get a whole number or fraction back, it is rational. So this is irrational. So we can go ahead and cross off the rational options. And now we have to decide, is it because both factors are irrational or only because one? So now let's just check them individually. The square root of 576 is a whole number, so that means it is rational. So that means both of them are not irrational. So we have one of them is irrational. Number 3, a relation is graphed on the set of axes below. Oh, that looks quadratic because it's got a U shape. Based on this graph, the relation is a function because it passes the horizontal line test. Well, we've never ever talked about the horizontal line test. So any option with horizontal line test, we can cross off. And then, is it a function or is it not a function? Well, it does pass the vertical line test, so it is a function. Number 4, if the original function 2x squared minus 1 is shifted to the left 3 units to make the function g of x, which one would represent g of x? Well, shifting to the left, all right, first off, or go back to notes 2.9 in our transformations, and you're going to find that shifting to the left is a horizontal change, so it should be inside our parentheses. All right, so we should have parentheses. These ones do not, so it's not 3 or 4. Okay, and going to the left is the opposite of what we'd think, so we should have an x plus 3. So answer 2 is our correct answer. The other option is to put all of these into y equals and see which one actually moved to the left 3 units. Number 5, John has 4 more nickels than dimes in his pocket for a total of $1.25. Which equation could be used to determine the number of dimes in his pocket? Well, here we have to remember that a nickel is 5 cents or 0.05, and dimes are 10 cents or 0.10. Okay, now we need to make the connection that dimes are x. So if I have 7 dimes, to find out how much money I would have to multiply 7 times 0.10, and I would get 70 cents. So we're looking for when x is being multiplied by 10. Okay, so not 1 and 2. That leaves me with answer choice 3 or 4. And the difference between 3 and 4 is what's inside the parentheses being multiplied by the nickels. One of them means 4 more than, and one of them means 4 times as many. So answer choice number 3, 4 more than, means we are adding 4. Number 6, write an exponential equation for the graph shown below. Well, first thing we have to do is pick some good points. All right, I can't tell what my y-intercept would be here. I think I'd be able to find the scale factor if I were to write these points in the table, but that y-intercept is tricky. So we're going to put it into our stat edit. And we are going to make sure that we are run an exponential regression, okay? And that tells me that my scale factor is 2, and my y-intercept is 0.25. So my equation is 0.25 times 2 to the x. And explain how you determine the equation. Well, you need to write full sentences, but you need to explain this whole process. I'm not going to explain that for you. Number 7, the formula f of g, or fg, f sub g equals g times m1 times m2 over r squared calculates the gravitational force. Everything in between here, it just tells you what those variables represent. We don't really need that. What we need is to know to solve for the positive value of r. So we're looking for r equals something. All right. Now, these subscripts, the little g1 and 2 are called subscripts. Those just mean that those are different variables. Okay. So what we're going to need to do first, in order to get r out of the denominator, we're going to put f of fg over 1, and we are going to cross multiply. So I'm going to get r squared times f sub g equals g times m1 times m2. Now I'm looking to get r squared by itself. Right now it's being multiplied by fg, so I'm going to divide both sides by fg. I can't combine any like terms. We don't know what these variables represent, so I currently just have r squared equals g times m1 times m2, this big fraction. And then we have to think, okay, what's the opposite of squaring a number? It is taking the square root. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides, because what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So that leaves me with a final answer here of r equals the square root of that big fraction. And that would be our final answer. We have r by itself here. Number 8, Nora says the graph of a circle is a function because she can trace the whole graph without picking up her pencil. Mia says that a circle graph is not a function because multiple values of x map to the same y value. Determine if either is correct and justify your answer. So I have a circle here, and based on the vertical line test, it is not a function. Okay, if I were to put this on a little grid, so Nora is not correct. Okay, if I were to put this on the grid, and let's say that this is x equals 2. I've hit that circle once there and once here. So let's just imagine that that's 1 and maybe that's 5. So that means I have the points 2, 1, and 2, 5. Okay, because now we have to decide, is Mia correct or is her reasoning correct? So Mia says it is not a function, so we agree with that. It's not a function because multiple values of x map to the same y value. Well, I think what she's saying is the opposite of what we have here. She's saying that if I have x is 7 and x is 10, that they each go to a y value of the same number. Okay, that's not what we have here. So actually, neither of these are correct. All right, so let's go ahead and say neither is correct because multiple values of x do not go to multiple or the same value of y. And finally, number 9, Omar has a piece of rope. He ties a knot in the rope and measures the new length of the rope. Okay. State to the nearest tenth the linear regression equation. Okay, so we need to go, that should automatically be like, oh, stat edit. Anytime you see regression, okay? And it's not asking for r, it's asking for the equation, okay? I'm about to run out of time, so you need to keep doing this question. I will not be able to finish it, but when we do that, I get a starting value and my rate of change. So remember, the y-intercept is the starting value. So we would start with 99.2 centimeters of rope, and the slope means that every knot shortens the rope by 8.5 centimeters. And I'm being cut off.